And what is going on? It is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. Can I get a roll tide inside the comment box? I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much for joining my show today on Monday, November 18th. I hope you guys had an amazing weekend. Alabama coming off a dominating victory over Mercer. Today on the show, we're talking about the AP Top 25 rankings. I know those aren't the real rankings. They come out on Tuesday night, but we're going to talk about it. Have some questions for you guys inside the comment box. Good morning to everybody up inside the comment box. Thank you very much to everybody who is a part of the Undefeated. And if you're not part of the Undefeated, think about becoming a subscriber of the Undefeated. It's only $2.99. We'll put the link in the description box. I appreciate that so much. All the support allows me to be a content creator, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. We're going to talk about Alabama football, a team that is on the rise. How are you playing for me lately, right? Going to talk about some key stats from this team. If you look at, there's a couple stats that will blow your mind, all right? One is outstanding and one will freak you out. All right, we're going to talk about Alabama and Oklahoma. We'll just hit on that just for a minute, because we'll, later on in the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we'll get into our kind of meat of the preview. Alabama favored by 13.5. Hey, Jeff, I appreciate you being a fan funder of Bama Football on YouTube. Talk about Turbo Rogers. He's the latest to flip from Alabama, right? There's been some flips. Yeah, I think, one has been significant. The other two, we'll talk about it. There's been 3 flips as of late. We'll talk about the future of the Alabama quarterback position. Had an opportunity to see all the Alabama quarterbacks on the roster, right? Even Cade Carruth, the walk-on who came in. Love to see it. And then what's trending in the world of college football, right? The playoff rankings, of course, they come out tomorrow. That's Tuesday. We'll preview it. I think I have a really good feel on how the playoffs are going to look Tuesday night. I'd be like really shocked if I don't hit it 100%. I think it's pretty easy based off what they did last week and then the teams losing this past weekend. SEC football standing, that's a hot topic, right? We'll go over that. BYU, Tennessee, they lose. We'll talk contenders and pretenders. Flip season's here. No one is safe. And Indiana and Ohio State. All right, so a lot to go over today on the show. And, of course, I will take your calls probably around 10:45 to 11 a.m. And then you also have Coach Kalen DeBoer, Nick Sheridan, Kane Womack up at the podium starting at 11:30 a.m. And that's right here on our YouTube channel. We'll broadcast that courtesy of the University of Alabama. Coach Kalen DeBoer will hit the podium at 12. So this is our Monday long show. So get comfortable. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Greg, save that question, come back to ask it. But Greg asked so far, a question for you. So Texas loses to Texas A&M. Do you think Texas makes the playoffs because of all those 2-loss SEC teams that have better wins in Texas? I mean, I think the short answer would be probably so. We're going to talk about playoff scenarios kind of on the back end of the show. I think that Texas would get in still. You'd probably just shuffle the 4 teams in the SEC that are going to make the playoffs, right? I think the team that is going to get pushed out because they lost late and they already have, now they have 2 losses, and the way that it worked out losing on the back end is Tennessee. So I think Tennessee gets pushed out. I think Georgia's in. I think Ole Miss is in. I think Bama's in. And I think Texas is in. That's kind of the short answer. All right. But let's talk about the AP Top 25 football rankings as we get going. I appreciate everybody being up in here, right here on Bama Football on YouTube. And, of course, we got to start out with the weekend forecast up in Norman, Oklahoma. I was just out in the high plains, and it was rather comfortable, to be quite honest. As you know, if you've been to that area, it can get cold, it can get chilly, but this is kind of the season of a later winter, I guess. Here in Tuscaloosa, it's like 7. It's so beautiful here. I'm not complaining about I'm not asking for the cold. I'm not. So for the tailgate, if you're going up to Norman, Oklahoma, 56 feels like 56. Again, this is courtesy of North Alabama Storm Chase. The game time temp will be 54. Absolutely perfect. And the fourth quarter, 52. Remember, the game is at 6:30 p.m. be on ABC. Appreciate you guys. Lance, and yeah, I don't think there's 5 spots for the SEC. I think there's 4 spots. And I think 4 teams definitely be in the playoffs. Dwayne, what's up, man? He is commenting on the forecast. Yeah, but we got a cold front moving in this week, Kyle. Yeah, I mean, I am leading those early workouts towards the back end of the weekend, so I'm watching the weather as well. But in terms of the kickoff for this Saturday, it looks fantastic. All right, here's a look at the AP Top 25. All right, I only put 1 through 18. All right, you have Oregon up at the top. You know what's interesting is Oregon defeats Wisconsin in a game that turned out to be pretty close. I know you can't really compare the teams based on the score. Oh, but Alabama, they took it to Wisconsin. I get it. I think the score would be the same score, even if Tyler Van Dyke did play in that game. 100%. Alabama absolutely dominated Wisconsin from the jump. The only bad thing that I remember about that Wisconsin game was the poor kicker missed a field goal. Other than that, they dominated Wisconsin, right? So Oregon pulls out a victory to move to 11-0 on the season. Oregon is ranked number 1 in the AP Top 25, and I get it. The AP doesn't translate to the college football rankings, but it's interesting to see how the pollsters have the teams at this point in time. And actually, based on where Alabama is, as you can see, number 7, they're higher right now than they are in the college football playoffs. Number 3, Texas at 9-1 after a victory over Arkansas. Rather close, but look, Sam Pittman's a good coach. I know, look, that place is a tough place to win, Arkansas, but these play teams close, but you got to win the games. Penn State pretender, 9-1. Indiana, and I have it on the back end of the show to talk about. I know this Indiana-Ohio State matchup, which is the college football game of the week. Right now, it's interesting because Indiana has like a 97% chance to make the college football playoffs, which is amazing because they haven't played one team within the top 25. Going to Ohio State and Columbus will present a lot of challenges. I see that they're a 12-point underdog in that game. I think that Ohio State beats Indiana handedly. Curious to see what happens to Indiana if they do lose that game. Let's say they lose by 14. Let's say they lose by 21. What happens to Indiana? And what is the College Football Playoff Committee telling us by ranking Indiana at 10-0 when they haven't played anybody? Does that mean to schedule kind of a light load? I guess Alabama might have a light load already next year because they're playing with Florida State to open. All right. Victor, what's up, man? See you inside the comment box. Thanks for being here. William, what's up, man? KTK Lance and Jarvis, I appreciate you being here. Jarvis chiming in that Alabama opens at a 14-point favorite over the Oklahoma Sooners. Case in with the super chat. Case from Tampa says, if Texas loses to Texas A&M, they shouldn't be in over a 10-2 SEC team. Their best win would be Vandy. Frauds, horns down. Yeah, I mean, if you really kind of zoom into Texas' schedule, they don't have a lot of quality wins, I guess. I just think at this point in time, if they did lose on the back end of Texas A&M, they'd probably still be in the playoffs. I don't know. I guess we'll dive into that after the college football playoffs are released on Tuesday. It'd be interesting to think about, though. I mean, the key loss is losing to Georgia 100%. And if they lose on the back end of Texas A&M, I guess you guys do have a point on that. Because I think if Texas A&M wins out, they'd have basically the same record. So maybe you throw in Texas A&M. I don't know. All that's rat poison, right? Alabama at number 7. And you look at how Alabama has played lately, right? The last 3 games, one of the stats that jumps out to me, and here's a trivia for you. How many touchdowns has Alabama allowed in the last 3 games? How many touchdowns has Alabama allowed in the last 3 games? Georgia beating up on Tennessee. Small takeaways from that game. I never felt that Tennessee was going to win that game. I think Tennessee is probably better than I've been making them out to be. They did beat Alabama. I feel that the quarterback isn't there yet. The defense is great. Georgia makes really good second half adjustments. Georgia wins that game, moves up in the rankings, actually ahead of Ole Miss, which is interesting because Georgia lost to Ole Miss, right? Isn't that crazy? So everybody inside the chat knows 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals in the last 3 games. Yo. You guys know what's up. Miami's at 11, and then Boise State in at 12. SMU, BYU, who lost. You know, out of all the teams to lose to, I was surprised they lost to Kansas. You have Colorado creeping up at 8-2. You know, we've talked about it before. Coach Prime has those guys on the rise. I think they have Kansas this coming week, and then Oklahoma State. Looks like Colorado and BYU are on a collision course for the Big 12 championship game. Winner of that, of course, will be the higher seed in the quarterfinals. I do have to make one announcement. You know, when looking at the college football playoffs, and here's what they look like last week, okay? And I have an updated graphic coming up. This was last Tuesday. This is not the current look, okay? But one thing that I have to make note of, I was under the impression, I think I made a mistake. I'm still getting to understand the playoffs just like you. But this is important, okay? So let's say seeds 5, 6, 7, and 8 in the first round. These games are at the host site of the actual venue. So, for example, Ohio State would host Boise State in Columbus, right? Tennessee would host Notre Dame. These games right here in the quarterfinals, they are not in Miami, Oregon, in Provo, Utah, or in Texas, Austin. These games right here are the bowl games, right? And then these are additional bowl games, and then this is the championship game. So I know, and we'll talk about this more later. So even if Alabama was to win the SEC championship game and let's say host right here, that game is not in Tuscaloosa. Just a heads up. I know there's a lot to keep track of when you're thinking about the new playoffs and all this stuff. So looking at the top 25 right now. And the thing about looking at the top 25, what's interesting is BYU is going to be in the outside of the top 10, but they are going to be a top 4 come Tuesday night because the Big 12, the Big 10, SEC, right? ACC, those teams get a bye 1 through 4 in the format of the college football playoff rankings. I appreciate you guys being here, 163 of you. Please take a minute to hit the thumbs up. I appreciate it. All right, next up, Alabama on the rise. Now, this is very interesting what I'm about to talk about because how are you playing for me lately, right? How are you playing at this point in time? And again, thank you very much, Case, for the super chat. I appreciate you very much, man. Let's go over some of these stats of Alabama as of late. And I think when you need like style points, how are you playing at the back end of the season? I mean, yeah, regardless of even the competition, like how are you playing, right? How are you executing? So scoring offense for Alabama, just under 40 points per game, which is actually in the top 10 in the nation. Very impressive. We can be hypercritical of the offense, whatever. I mean, here are the stats, right? Total offense, almost 440 per game, which is in the, top 30 in the nation. In a world of grass basketball, it's pretty good. And I think this is probably a balanced approach with Alabama's offense. 246 passing, 191 rushing. It's interesting that those stats come out to 30th in the nation, right? On defense, 324 yards per game, which is number 32 in the nation. Third down defense, 32%. That's 18th in the nation. That's a number that we've been watching. It's kind of gone up and down, right? That third down defense, it's kind of gone up and down. It's fluctuated. But right now, I think that's pretty good. At one point, I think Alabama was ranked like in the 40s, like, 41 or something like that. So moving on back to where they were. I think at one point they were in the top 10 too on third down defense. I love third down defense. This is probably these three stats are the biggest stats, period, right here. Absolutely, okay? 24 forced turnovers this season with 14 interceptions. That is third in the nation. Thumbs up right now inside the comment box if you have been absolutely pleased with the amount of turnovers by the defense. And I put exclamations on the end of each of these three last categories because I feel that, number one, with the 24 first forced turnovers, and if you add that to a run game, who's to say that Alabama can't win this whole thing? Which is crazy to say because we've been on a roller coaster type season. But forcing turnovers to give your offense an opportunity to put points on the board, that is the recipe for winning football games. Adam, I'm with you, man. I think Alabama definitely does what they want against Oklahoma. But the 24 forced turnovers is a number that is outstanding. And, you know, when we're talking about Kane Womack taking over, and I know we've gone up and down. I think his approval rating is really high right now. One of the things that he talked about was forcing turnovers. And that was kind of part of his coaching style, right? The swarm defense. They were going to get all these turnovers on defense. They're doing it. And 14 interceptions, I think Alabama has like 6 or 7 guys that have 2 interceptions each. Good point out, KTK, that Oklahoma has had 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama. I like that. I like that stat. Next up, the penalties. I think Alabama is still ranked 128th. I know that. They're ranked 128th in the nation. At one point, they were ranked 129th. Alabama is averaging about 9 penalties per game. That's a stat that just... See, what's interesting is stat number 1 I was talking about, 24 forced turnovers. That's championship level football. But penalties, 128th in the nation, that is not championship level football. But they're winning. And it seems to me like over the last couple of games, the penalties haven't really jumped out to me like they did at the beginning of the season. But 128th in the nation is absolutely crazy. Kevin chimes in inside the comment box. He said, Kyle, I made a comment about the takeaways by the defense. They have 3 takeaways in each of the past 6 games. Jeez. What an outstanding number. And you know what? You look at the way that they're executing against Mercer. You see high-level play from Damani Jackson came in, clubbed the football out, right? You see Jahad Campbell, right, forcing a fumble. You see Deontay Lawson batting a ball, which turned into an interception, right? Xavier Brown with the fumble for a touchdown. So, you know, the team is playing high-level football and forcing turnovers, which that is championship-level play. Penalties is not. And allowed just 2 touchdowns in the last 12 quarters. So, I mean, we could talk about these different points. It all stands out to me. Probably the forced turnovers and penalties is the biggest thing. Yeah, number 2 on offense scored twice and number 2 on defense scored once, right? I'm going to tell you this quick little stat, too, before we get to our next topic. Look at point number 3 on this. So Saturday, November 23rd, Alabama and Oklahoma, right? TV is ABC. Alabama favored by 14. Alabama is 8-2, 4-2 in SEC play. Oklahoma 5-5, 1-5 in SEC play. Look, Brent Venables already had to get rid of his offensive coordinator this season. You look at to teams who were ready for the SEC, teams it's going to take a while. Oklahoma, I mean, Brent Venables, I think we all have respect for Brent Venables still because of what he did as a defensive coordinator at Clemson. Clearly 1-5 in SEC play. Yo, it's tough. Lance points out what I was just about to talk about. Look at point number 3 on here. Oklahoma's, the offensive line, they've allowed 41 sacks this season. 41 sacks. Pressure the quarterback in this game. I mean, yeah, KTK, I'll take you on that. 5 sacks. I'll take you on that. But 41 sacks. So, I mean, this is, let's be honest. We know the game plan, right? Feed Milroe, let him do his thing on the ground, connect through the air. 2,200 yards passing, 15 touchdowns, 17 touchdowns on the ground. I think he has was it 44 all-time rushing touchdowns at Alabama, which is just above Jalen Hurts. Oh, let's be honest too. I think the most deadly pressure that Alabama gets is when they send pressure from their inside linebackers. When Jahad Campbell is coming at you, and so is Deontay Lawson, those guys are absolutely on fire. Okay, let me ask you. I know it's a little bit of rat poison, but based off the level of play from Alabama as of late within the last 3 games, are you taking Alabama to beat Oklahoma by more than 14 points? I know it's a little bit of rat poison, but just are you feeling that confident about this team? Yes or no? Yes, Alabama beats Oklahoma by more than 14. No, you're unsure. And again, I'll take your calls here at probably like 10:45 after I'm done with my opening segment. Maybe closer to 11, and then at 11:30 we have Nick Sheridan, Kane Womack, and then of course Kalen DeBoer. I think the only thing that I'm, I guess, a little bit not concerned about is I just have always felt that I've seen playing at Oklahoma as a challenge. I think that stadium, right? Like, this is another formerly Big 12, now SEC stadium. But other than that, I mean, this team's playing really good football right now. I think they've had some good wake-up calls. So, yeah, if you're just joining, we got 206 on. I appreciate you guys hitting the thumbs up and jumping into the comment box. And it doesn't matter. I don't think you necessarily need, specific style points in this one. I mean, clearly winning by more than 10 on the road. I mean, you just won your first SEC road game against LSU in a game where you played 4 complete quarters. Darius, what's up, man? That's a really good question. We're going to talk about that in a second for sure. But I think I'd take Alabama by more than 14. Feeling good about that. I know it's a rat poison, but I just think based on the level that they're playing and now they understand like really what's at stake. I mean, because let's face it. I mean, it's easy to understand the playoff implications for Alabama. If you lose, you're out. I mean, if you lose, you're out, period. And Coach Saban always says that these teams, when they play Alabama, they still have pride in performance. Because if you're a coach, if you're Brent Venables right now, you're like, we got one of the hottest teams in college football coming in. This is our opportunity to, let's say, not necessarily salvage our season, but to derail Alabama football, right? It's always a Super Bowl for teams. We know that watching Alabama football. Auburn will be saying the same thing. Quincy's chiming in and says Texas will win the SEC title. And I would imagine, I don't know what an early line is between Texas and Texas A&M down the road. But Jarvis, you're right, man. Alabama does control its own destiny. All right, here's a look at the SEC standings. And I know a lot of people have been talking about this because there was a 3-way tie before the Georgia-Tennessee game. Now Texas and Texas A&M out in front. 5-1 record between Texas and Texas A&M. Then you have Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama. You have Ole Miss. So there's 4 teams that have 2 losses. And pretty soon there'll be another as well, right? Either Texas or Texas A&M. But I really think that this Georgia game had a lot of implications on Tennessee, actually. Because with Tennessee now losing, I have Tennessee out. Even though they do have a victory over Alabama, it's kind of like, where did you lose during the season? If you go to bballhoops.net, this is like this site has blown up. This is like the unofficial site for the playoff implications and the SEC tiebreakers, most importantly. So bballhoops or nothing.net. I'll put the link again in the description box. Everybody's using it. So the teams in the red border are the teams that are favored to win the games during November 23rd and November 29th, November 30th. And if you click calculate the standings based off this, so real quick, right? November 23rd, we assume Texas A&M is going to win. Ole Miss beats Florida. That could be interesting, though. LSU beating Vandy. That could also be interesting. But the games that matter is the Missouri game, and I'll explain why. Right? If Missouri loses, their last 2 games, then Georgia would leapfrog Alabama in terms of strength of schedule for the SEC, and it would be Georgia that plays in the SEC title game over Alabama. I don't know. Missouri's kind of down on the ropes right now. I think they'll beat Mississippi State. If you click this calculate button, this is what it spits out. Alabama and Texas in the SEC championship game. And this is based off if Texas beats Texas A&M, Alabama wins out, and Missouri wins against Mississippi State and Arkansas. Now, Missouri has to lose each of those games for Georgia to get in. So I'm going to say that again. Missouri has to lose each of those games for Georgia to leapfrog Alabama. So Alabama right now with a really good opportunity and chances to make the SEC championship game. If A&M wins, then it's basically just Alabama and Texas A&M. I'm going to talk about kind of playoff scenarios here in a minute as well. It'll be just before I take your calls. So I'll take your calls here in a little while. We'll come back to the playoffs because I know you guys want to dive into that. We can ask questions when you guys call in. And then at 11:30, you have Nick Sheridan, Kane Walmack. And then at 12 p.m., you have Coach Kalen DeBoer. So this is my Monday show that goes a pretty good length. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. I see KTK, Ace, J Bake, Victor, KTK, GSP Scott, Big Chevy, Adam. I appreciate you guys all being in the house. Ephraim as well. Thank you so much. So there's been flips. We understand this. This is part of the college football fabric. This is part of college football recruiting. What I'm going to ask you, and I'd like some participation in this next part of my segment. I'm going to talk about Turbo, Caleb, Dawson, and kind of each of the impact of losing these guys on a scale of 1 to 10. So 1, limited impact, 10, high impact. Okay. I'm going to give my assessment as well. Alabama on three's rankings is still ranked number 4. I know you have 24/7, you have Rivals, you have On 3. I've kind of gravitated to use the On 3 rankings. It looks aesthetically more eye-pleasing to me, but 24/7 or Rivals also really good as well. Let's talk about Turbo Rogers. If you followed any of the major recruiting sites, they kind of already told you that Turbo Rogers was not expected to be in this class. And I think that's a way of kind of like saying that it's not going to be impactful, right? So let me ask you about Turbo real quick while I talk about him. On a scale of 1 to 10, how impactful is losing Turbo Rogers from this class? I'm going to say probably between a 2 and a 3. I don't think it's that impactful. And here's why. You look at Alabama's running back depth chart, right? Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, Richard Young, Daniel Hill, Kevin Riley. All those running backs are coming back. I would imagine maybe Jam tests his water within the NFL, right? I would imagine maybe one leaves, transfer portal, whatever. But man, like it would take Turbo Rogers a while to get on the field. Plus, you have A.K. Deere, who I think is probably a better pound-for-pound running back than Turbo. There's a lot of depth back there. I mean, the way that Jam, Justice, and Richard are playing right now, and if those guys all come back, whew, man, it's going to be hard for anybody else to get on the field, period. The other thing is, and this is like the non-sugarcoating mention of this, is that maybe Turbo Rogers saw the way that Alabama uses their running backs and felt that this isn't the area for him. Now you could say, well, Turbo, you're not really being as a running back anymore anyways, right? Jenny in with the super chat. Appreciate you. Good morning, Kyle. Hope to see you next week. My very first Iron Bowl. We'll be driving to T-Town after my day of chemo. Roll Tide to Bama. I appreciate you, Jenny. Thank you so much. Jenny is fighting cancer. She is a stage 4 cancer patient, and she is absolutely battling. Gives me inspiration just getting a super chat from her. There's a emoji ribbon inside the comment box. It's a pink emoji. If we could hit that for Jenny, I'd appreciate that. And God bless you, Jenny. Thank you so much. You give me strength, honestly. That's amazing. Like, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we could definitely link up, for some breakfast or something like that. I'd absolutely love to. But I think I'm still on Turbo. Why would you leave Alabama? I think I have a question too. Like, are these running backs going to get fed? I mean, you look at the limited usage of the running backs. They don't really have a featured running back. I think if they do have a featured runner, it is Jalen Milroe. Now, will that change next year? Definitely. So I think if you're reverse recruiting against Alabama, I'm like, well, look how they're using their running backs. They're not feeding their running backs. They're not letting these guys eat at a high level. So come over here and play running back. Now, Turbo, I don't even know if the guy's going to play running back at the next level. And who's to say that he can play sooner at Ohio State than he can here at Alabama? Because Alabama has a ton of running backs just as Ohio State does. So limited impact on Turbo Rogers. My last thing on Turbo is he is an in-state guy. So that's another thing people will talk about is how are you recruiting in-state guys? Maybe it makes a difference. Maybe it doesn't. I like keeping in-state guys, and I know Auburn's doing a really good job on that. But it doesn't matter overall, I guess, but I like keeping in-state guys. Caleb Cunningham, scale of 1 to 10, what do you guys think in terms of impact losing Caleb Cunningham? You might be surprised by what I'm going to say, but I think losing Caleb Cunningham is also low impact, which is wild because I might say like a 4, maybe like a 5, but not like a 10. And this is why, because you have all of those running backs coming back, or all those wide receivers coming back next year. J Bake says 5, Mike says 8, 3, 6, so a little bit higher. I could tell you guys understand who Caleb Cunningham is. 7, 9, 4, a lot higher than mine. My argument to that would be look at the Alabama wide receivers coming back. Again, we don't know, but I would imagine most of them do. And right now, I mean, you got your feature wide receivers, Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard. I mean, look, Kobe doesn't really play. Kendrick doesn't really play. They're trying to get him more in the mix, and the offense will be different next year, but there's so many guys coming back next year. You saw a little bit of Jaron Hamilton, right? Rico Scott that catch by Rico Scott was nice. Ephraim, I think you bring up a good point about the running back because there's so many running backs in the NFL, right? NFL, not for long, right? I kind of think it's a low impact just because of the guys coming back. But, man, Caleb Cunningham is that guy. Like, I think he'll play immediately at Ole Miss. Immediately. Alabama still has Latair Brooks, right, in the class. Latair Brooks been on, ESPN like 2 or 3 times making catches. Cole Adams will be back. Jalen Hell, just wait till Jalen Hell's healthy. That's like basically getting another 5-star back into the class, if you think about that. All right. Dawson Merritt, linebacker from the Midwest, who flipped to Nebraska. Scale of 1 to 10, what you think? 1 to 10. I'd probably say like a 2. I think the thing with Dawson Merritt is it seemed like he was always going to be a part of Nebraska's class. Even though he was committed to Alabama, I felt like he was always going to flip at some point to Nebraska. And did money play a role in each of these things in terms of NIL? 100%. Turbo, yes. Caleb, yes. What is Ohio State and Ole Miss? What were they known for before the beginning of this season in the transfer portal? Is having funds to go after guys that they wanted. Ole Miss, Ohio State, Nebraska. Nebraska's even in that conversation as well. Dawson Merritt's good, for sure. But I don't think it's like a 7 or 8. You know who I think will be a massive loss, probably like an 8 to 10 in terms of impact if they were to flip, would be Michael Carroll, the 5-star offensive lineman, right? If he somehow flips to Colorado, he just visited Coach Prime, I think, this past weekend. You lose a guy like that, that's impactful. You start losing 5-star offensive linemen, That's where it gets, yeah, like that's, I think you have guys at running back, you have receivers, linebacker, you probably need to pick another guy up. But, yo, you lose Carroll, we come back on here and it's getting serious. Jordan mentions, what's up, Jordan? We may get Bear Alexander from the portal. That would be something I think to get excited about. I think where you look to Bear Alexander, maybe the best football is ahead of him. Maybe you can get him to coach up. Defensive tackles, defensive linemen, that is the hardest position to continue to replenish. 100%. I think, I mean, maybe even there and like after that, tackles, guards, a high-level tight end. High-level tight ends are so hard to recruit. Oh my, especially in the SEC. Is it Melvin's birthday? Melvin, what's up, man? Happy birthday to you. Sorry I missed it. Everybody give Melvin a happy birthday inside the comment box. Melvin, my hope is for you to have an amazing week, for you to have an amazing rest of this year, to be healthy, to be happy. So happy birthday, Melvin. And for your Alabama Crimson Tide football team to win a natty. How about that? And the world hasn't ended because Alabama is still ranked number 4 in the recruiting world. You know, when Alabama was number 1 before these guys decided to start flipping, and there might be a couple more, it works both ways. You know, Ivan Taylor is a guy that we're watching to flip to Alabama from Michigan. I kind of was under the assumption that Alabama would be somewhere between that 1 and 5 under Coach Kalen DeBoer. Being in 1 and 5 in your first year is impressive to me, specifically because you have NIL. Teams can just be like, yo, we'll give you, I mean, do you see this for the quarterback? Right? The LSU quarterback, Underwood. Michigan is able, like, they want to offer him 10.5 over 4 years to flip. That's where we're at. Garrett, like, that is wild. I strongly feel it should be incentivized. Like, right? If you play this amount, if you do this well, like Ryan Williams, I would have it tiered to where he'd be like, okay, based off what you've done on the field, based off what you've done for like Alabama's economy, we are giving you this much money after your freshman year. Make them earn it. You imagine the kid comes in and he doesn't perform at the high. How do we know? How do we know how good these kids are before they haven't even played? Yeah, Underwood is the guy going to LSU, but Michigan, right? There's like, you know, out there that they're going to give him 10.5 to flip over 4 years. And then Underwood said that he's going to turn that down. So how much is LSU giving him? The same? I kind of think if I'm a quarterback, I don't, you know, whatever Brian Kelly, I think that offense might fit a little bit better if I'm a quarterback. I'd rather go to LSU than Michigan because of the fact that you know the type of weapons that you're going to have. Now, head coaching wise, Brian Kelly, I don't know, not really working out that much, but yeah, I saw that GSP. I saw you guys ranked, the Bama's ranked number 7 in the AP, 100%. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. I'll hit on that one more time. After I hit on this last segment, I'll go over the college football playoff rankings. I'll take your guys' calls. And then at 11:30, you got Nick Sheridan, Kane Womack, and Coach Kalen DeBoer. Okay, so look, we had an opportunity to see all of Alabama's quarterbacks against Mercer. Right? Thank you again, Jenny, for the super chat. Case as well. I really appreciate you guys. Ty Simpson, Dylan Lonergan, Austin Mack, Keelan Russell is not here yet. He is the 5-star that will be a true freshman next season. You still got to get him to sign. And look, I'm not, for going back to recruiting one more time, I am not going back to like 100% committed by any of these kids until they sign, period. Look, I know it's a catchy headline or like I'm locked in, 100% locked in. No. You are 100% locked in when you sign a piece of paper that means you're coming here next season. All right, so let's talk about the quarterbacks that we even had Kay Caruth, right? A walk-on. But in terms of guys who will be vying for the starting position next year, I think you have options. I have a video coming out, I think, later today. I think one of these quarterbacks will transfer. I'll be quite honest with you. I think it's going to be Dylan Lonergan. I think Dylan Lonergan, it makes the most sense for him to transfer, not because of a lack of skill set. I just think Ty Simpson, he's clearly the front runner. Oh, and the grades listed, those are where the guys are right now this year. So add a year for next year. Lonergan makes the most sense to transfer, not based on the lack of skill set. I just think Ty Simpson's the front runner. I think Austin Mack looked pretty damn good. And he's a Kalen DeBoer guy. And I think Keelan Russell is going to compete for the starting position next year. I really do. It might, I think it'll take time. I don't know. Keelan Russell, it's crazy because the highlights that I see from him, I'm impressed. And you're right. I think Lonergan is ready to start somewhere. 100%. You look to what Eli Holsting's doing for Pitt. Oh, he's doing a fantastic job. Yeah, so, yeah, J-Bake, good point. So how I have this listed is Keelan Russell be a true fresh in this next class. He's not on board right now. So if you're confused by that, he's not here. He's still in high school. I'm just saying for next year. And I guess I should update like the rest of the look too. Like next year, Ty will be a redshirt junior. Dylan, redshirt sophomore. Russell, maybe I'll put commit. Actually, I'll do that now so people aren't confused. Because that's kind of confusing for me too. Let me edit this real quick on the side. But what I'm talking about is the quarterback position for Alabama is in a really good spot with the guys coming in. I just think you can't keep all those quarterbacks. I think it's going to be hard to do. And I think the guy that leaves will be Dylan Lonergan. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe all of them come back. I have no idea. Maybe Ty leaves. Wouldn't that be crazy? I don't think that'll happen. What were your takeaways from each of these guys at the quarterback position? Let me start out by giving you a little feedback on what I saw. So from Ty Simpson, the one play that stands out from me was when he evaded that defender, kind of kicked his legs up. That was super athletic, and then kept his eyes downfield and fired a deep pass to Josh Cuevas, who jumped up, caught it, loved it. The early part of him running the offense, he looked inaccurate. I think the guy is probably just so excited to be playing. He missed on Kobe Prentice. He had another overthrow, but like these are limited opportunities. And I feel a guy like Ty or anybody on the roster that got playing time, they were probably so excited to finally throw the football, finally excited to run the offense. Maybe it took them some time to settle in. So in terms of like them being inaccurate, or I'm not taking too much from that, I look to playmaking ability. How are these guys running the offense? And I think Ty did a really good job, to be honest. Dylan Lonergan, he looked pretty good as well. At the times that we've seen Dylan Lonergan in at quarterback, whether that be the spring game or this past game, he's not a bad quarterback at all. Austin Mack, he brings a different dimension because the first thing that stands out to him is his size, right? 6'6", 230 pounds or whatever. And that ball he threw, it seemed like it had a little bit of wobble to it, but the placement was perfect. And Rico Scott made a hell of a play. So if you're looking at the future of Alabama football, I mean, there it is. And then when you have Keelan Russell, who's a quarterback commitment right now in that class, if you look up his highlights or anything that he's done during his senior level of high school, man, you're impressed. He has a deep ball. He moves well in the pocket. He has athleticism. Let me ask you inside the comment box. Do you think there will be a battle for the quarterback position next year? Or do you think it's Ty? So if you think it's going to be Ty as a starter, type in T. If you think there's going to be a battle for the spot, type B, like battle. Man, I think it's going to be Ty clearly as the front. I guess I'll go with Ty. I think Ty will be the starter. There should be a battle at every single position, and that's what they will say. But I think they'll dub Ty as a starter in spring, but I think there will be competition. There's competition right now. Wow, a lot of battles. Man. Yeah, 10 pit, I'm with you, man. Battle every single year. Derek, what's up, man? I see you inside the comment box. Samuel, what's going on? Joseph, battle. And the quarterback position's always crazy to talk about. I think it's going to be tie, and I think that at least in the springtime, I don't know. That's a whole nother year away, but still. Good comments in the feedback. Or good feedback inside the comments. I appreciate it. Okay, let's talk a little bit of this college football madness, all right? So if you go to the ESPN playoff predictor right now, you can this is a fun site to check out, right? Type in ESPN playoff predictor. Works better on it. I think it works great on your phone, but if you're on your desktop, you're at the office or whatever, check it out. So currently, Oregon, they're undefeated. Indiana, they're undefeated. Ohio State, 3 teams from the Big Ten. Even Penn State over at the far right. High chances, probability to make the playoffs. Texas, Georgia, Boise, Bama, Notre Dame next in line. Tennessee, who just lost, 66% chance, and BYU down at the bottom level, 39% chance to make the playoffs, right? So we know what Alabama has to do is basically just keep winning. These are the playoff rankings that I came up with based on the formula that they've been using in the college football playoff rankings, using the top teams from each conference with the 3 and 4. I actually put Miami at 3. So this is what I did. So I created this. So if you look closely, what I did was I moved the teams around. So this is not official by any means, but I just basically did some photoshopping on this, okay? So let me walk you through it. This is how I think the rankings are going to look tomorrow night. And I feel probably like 90 to 100% that this is going to be perfect, okay? I circled the teams on the left because those 2 teams lost. But let's start on the right side in the quarterfinals. Again, the quarterfinals will be bowl games. So I feel that Oregon is going to be number 1. I think that Texas is going to be number 2. I'm talking about the seedings. Number 3, I think it's going to be Miami just because that BYU just lost. Now, if you're out there and you don't know how the playoffs work, the Big 12, the big conference, I guess they're calling it, the ACC and the SEC, all get quarterfinal buys based off winning their conference championship game. I have number 5 as Ohio State playing the group of 5, which has to make the playoffs, which is Boise. So the group of 5 has to make the playoffs, and it's the highest ranked group of 5. So right now that's Boise State. Now, the photoshopping that I did was I put Alabama at 9 taking on Notre Dame. Now, if this was to work out, Alabama would go to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. Again, this is not official, but I did some photoshopping based on the formula. I have Georgia in the playoffs at 11 taking on Penn State. Again, this is Tuesday night. Wow, interesting. Boise is your number 4, KTK. Wow, that would be crazy if a group of 5 made the quarterfinals. And then I have Ole Miss at 10 taking on Indiana. Now, the team that I have out is actually Tennessee. And I think even though Tennessee beat Alabama, I think because Tennessee lost just recently, I think they'll be pushed out. So KTK says that he'd swap Boise and BYU. Interesting. I didn't think about that. I wonder if the committee will do that. Anyways, I would look, I'm not going to lie. I would love to see Alabama go to South Bend. And I think a lot of fans would make that trip to go see Bama play at Notre Dame in a playoff game. That would be cool from a college football perspective. What I think is really going to happen if Bama runs the table and they win the SEC championship game, just put Alabama at that number 2 spot. Or who's to say that Alabama wouldn't even be ranked number 1? Either way, they're going to be ranked number 1 or 2 if they win the SEC championship game. So these are the basics. I'm going to take your calls in just a few minutes. But this is as basic as it could be right here. If Alabama loses to Oklahoma or Auburn, they're out. Like, it's done. We know that. If Alabama wins out, high chances they are in the SEC title. Unless Missouri loses its final two, then Georgia would go to the SEC title to play either Texas A&M or Texas. Okay, so we're all watching Missouri. With win in the SEC title game, Alabama, I need to fix that. They will host as the number 1 through 4 seed, be like the home team. The game will not be at Bryant-Denny Stadium. So let me edit that real quick. I want to make sure that, because I thought the game would be in the quarterfinals at Bryant-Denny. It's not. It would just be a 1 through 4 in quarterfinals. And then with loss in the SEC title game, I still think that Alabama at 10-3 makes the playoffs. I really do. But I think they'll be on the road in the first round as a 9, 10, 11, or 12 seed. So that's pretty much it. I mean, that's. Do you think, let me ask you this, and I know it's an Alabama heavy channel. Do you think if Alabama loses the SEC title game, do you think that a 10-3 Alabama will make the playoffs? Or do you think they'll be punished for losing? What scares me about Alabama losing, if they were to get to the SEC championship game and lose, this is what scares me, okay? Did you see the first team that I said would be out? The first team that I have out, okay, is Tennessee. If it comes down, if Tennessee finishes out their season, like 10-2, and Alabama loses in the SEC title game, Tennessee has a win over Alabama. And I think they'd be punished. I really do. Because of that loss to Tennessee, I think then Tennessee would get in. That's what I'm scared about. So I don't know. I mean, I get it. I know you can't. You get there and you can't lose. But if you win and you do beat Texas, then you're in one of the New Year's Six in the quarterfinals, right? Mike G, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for becoming a fan funder. KTK, what keeps Tennessee out, man? Marcus, what's up, man? Appreciate you. Let me ask you this. Okay, before I take your calls. Do you think Alabama would be punished if they lost the SEC title game? Yes or no? I think so because of the Tennessee loss. So I think I'm going to say yes. And for those of you that are like the committee doesn't like Alabama, yeah, they don't. But also, they are partnered with TV networks, and they know that Alabama drives TV ratings. So put the best team in based off the quality of schedule and the TV ratings, right? All right, so if you're looking at this bracket, the bracket has not been released yet. This is I photoshopped the bracket. This is a made-up bracket based on how I think it'll go on Tuesday night. So this is not official. So if you're looking at this and, don't screenshot it. Screenshot it if you want, but I'm just saying it's not official. I know, Adam. It was someone, I think KTK said that they would have Boise State in at number 4 over BYU, which I guess they could. But you know who's going to be complaining is, and right now it's not even on the board, is Colorado. So Colorado could win the Big 12, and then they would be seated at, I guess, either 3 or 4. Whatever. We got some football left to play, and we'll go to the phone lines. When you call in, just be cognizant that you have people probably calling behind you. And here are the topics, and any of these topics are relevant topics to discuss. Of course, it's your show. At 11:30, we'll go to Nick Sheridan, Kane Womack, so be mindful of that as well. But any of these topics is kind of what's trending. All right, we go to the phone lines, and we got Chris from New Jersey batting first. Chris, what's up, man? I appreciate you playing leadoff, man. Welcome to the show, and take it away, man.
Kyle, happy Monday. Welcome back. I hope everything went well out there.
Thank you.
It did.
Thank you.
With what you told us. Best of the fam. Okay, well, I love this recruiting chatter because I have a different take on some of these things.
Okay.
And I have a major prediction regarding recruiting, and you're going to love it. So, all right. Now, no offense to these kids. They're zero loss to Alabama. Okay. Keelan Russell being lost would blow our whole class up. He is the number one quarterback in the country. I'm so happy Rivals, as usual, has got it pretty wrong. As he's like 10. He is the number one quarterback. He should be on top of that list. And I think Jarvis said it in the chat, or somebody else. I think it was Jarvis. He's playing against the best competition almost in the country, high school football wise. And if we lost him, that would blow the entire class up. And it sounds like he's in now. Also, Carroll, the lineman, he's come to Bama. He's getting a free trip out there. FYI, I don't blame these kids. Get the free trip. And they're talking about Prime. It could be like coaching potential for Florida State and all these other schools. The NFL, they're saying the Dallas Cowboys. So there's a silver lining to these recruits flipping, and I'm shocked that no one has mentioned it. Is because we know the world we're living in, Kyle, is all about the dollars, all about the bags, as we always talk about. So what this freed up is freed up a load of money for yay Alabama, and for all whoever else is out there that's all the alumni and Saban and all the other cash. So my prediction on this show today, what is it, the 18th of November, is Oford is going to – we're going to snatch him from Ohio State, and all this money is going to him. So, pow, undefeated, pow. So, all right. So, now so that's my prediction. My prediction is this money just got freed up so we can snatch him back, and then all of a sudden Alabama will go right back to number one recruiting class. Now, and also my last point, just a couple quick ones. But my last point is, remember one thing, Kyle. We suffered, you and me and everybody in the chat every day when they were picking us clean after Saban retired, right? Yeah. It was like one of those cows going in and what are those? The piranhas eating the big cow. That's what that was Alabama. They were killing us, man. That kid, you see Kitzelman, our tight end, he scored a touchdown on the goal line the other night. So anyway, but let's say that's bygone. Let's get that go. So, but Kyle, here's the good thing, Kyle, is there's going to be some major coaching changes that come in the next couple months. Major, right? And there is rosters that now, remember that as they say, the hunted become the hunters, Kyle. And so, beware. There's plenty of players out there. And remember, we've got a great roster. I love what you always say is we're young because it's the truth. But hey, all of a sudden, we're going to be able to target the people to fill the holes that we need. If we need a right tackle, if we need blah blah blah. So. We're going to become the hunters, Kyle, which is great. And and keeping the money back is good because you always have to have some powder in the gun, So, and also my last point is about quarterbacks and about players in general. College football just became the NFL, right? Yeah. Look at the Giants. The Giants have $100 million bust quarterback, Aaron Rodgers for the Jets. Over $100 million. Unfortunately, got injured. Bust. Brock Purdy for San Francisco didn't have to pay him any money, and he got him to the Super Bowl. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. So now you're going to buy up players, and you don't know how they're going to perform. And people are, they could give this guy $10 million. He might not even be the starter for Michigan, Kyle. So right. I love where we are. I love all the chatter. on about the playoffs. I always said one thing: no more predictions for me. I just want to win, baby, win. And the only thing that I care about is in, baby, in. All I care about is getting in. Everything else, I appreciate you guys all speculating about where we are. All I care about right now, this part of the season, is we got to win out. We got to get in. And once we get in, we can be there's Bama can beat anybody in there.
Yep.
Anybody in there. So,
Yep.
All right. So listen, happy Monday. Welcome back. Great job. My best to you, the fam, undefeated. And we will talk, my friend. Roll Tide.
All right, roll Tide to you, man. All right, appreciate it. Good call from Chris in New Jersey. All right, we go to a 601. I think it's got Jay in Pensacola. Jay, is that you?
Yes, it's me. How you doing, Kyle?
Jay, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. We got Jay calling in from Pensacola. Come on in with it, man. I appreciate you being here.
How are you today, man?
I'm doing good, man. Feeling good. It's good Monday. Got Oklahoma, trying to block out the rat poison. But it's hard not to talk about the playoffs, right? I mean, we've been talking about the playoffs for the last 6 weeks and a couple more games to win and you're in. So with that said, man, welcome on in. Come with it.
My thing is I want to talk about the portal. I want to talk about what Chris – I want to continue on what Chris was talking about the portal. I know we got Tyler Booker leaving. Of course, we got I hope Parker Bresler stays another year.
Yep.
I'm not sure if he's going to leave.
Yep.
But we need to – I don't want to say replace them, but we need other experienced players on the offensive line.
Yeah.
And I feel it's going to be important for us to go in the portal and get those players. Hopefully we're going to put it hard. And to be honest, I hope we don't go to the SEC championship. I'm like you said yesterday, I'm not scared of competition.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be penalized for us losing.
Yeah.
And we are the most hated team by other teams and by the committee.
Yeah.
So we are the most hated team in America. But if we don't go, that's the best thing could happen to us. We're gonna have to play, and we can play whoever at a home game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's kind of the thing is if Alabama does make the SEC championship game, which is there's a high probability of this happening, if they don't win, which is also a possibility. I mean, it's two of the best teams in college football, almost a preview of maybe the college football championship game. Would they be penalized for losing that game? I don't think that they would be penalized. Then again, you don't know. I mean, 10-3. The only thing that scares me is that the kind of the first team that I have out in the playoff scenario is Tennessee football. So Tennessee, and the thing that Tennessee could say is, how could you take Alabama in over us when we beat Alabama head-to-head? Should Alabama not make the SEC, or should they win the SEC championship game? Now, they have on Tennessee's remaining schedule to finish out 6-2 in SEC play. All they have to do is beat Vanderbilt. Right. So I don't know. I think that's something that we're certainly watching. What else you got, Jay?
I want to say, I got one more thing to say. I'm rooting for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, we need one more favor from you.
That's right.
That's how we need you to beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
So Vanderbilt, do your thing. Diego Pavia, do your thing. I'm rooting for you. That's all I got, Kyle. Have a good day and roll Tide.
All right, roll Tide. All right. What if you were asked to be on a jury, right? Like legitimate jury, and you had to just be 100% accurate for the faith of humanity, and they asked you, the judge asked you, okay, just take your Alabama fan hat off, okay, and they asked you, and you were on a jury, and you swore on oath, right? Who gets in to the playoffs between these two teams? Alabama at 10-3. Who just lost in the SEC title. Again, they could win the whole thing. I'm just saying, in this scenario. Who wins at 10? Who gets in the playoffs to the final spot for the SEC at 10-3 Alabama that just lost in the SEC title game, or a 10-2 overall Tennessee team? Who gets in? Tennessee or Alabama if those are the last two spots? If you just swore, Patriot Live, what's up, man? Appreciate you being here. Patriot Live's balls suck. All right, 832, we got Mike coming in from Austin. Free Mike, what's up, man? Appreciate you joining the show. Thanks for becoming a fan funder. Welcome on in.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you for having me. Hey, Kyle, and you're welcome, by the way. Glad to be part of the fam, man. You do a great job, Kyle. I encourage everybody to become a fan funder. It's only $5 or $10 a month. So great job. Keep up the good work, buddy. But hey, man, this game coming up, for your first question, like you just said, who knows? To answer your question, it just depends on the committee. Do they look at like a 10-3 Bama that goes to the championship game and rewards them for going to the championship game, or do they just look at the 1, 2, and 3 loss like they appear to be doing now and say we got 2 losses, we got 3 losses, so Tennessee goes? But Kyle, I know it's been a big talk this past week, but what this committee's doing, I have no idea, and I just hope and pray, because I know how big money ESPN is. I hope they're not trying to top down some kind of engineer some kind of regional matchups for big money. Because I can tell you how big money is they want big money back. And so I hope that doesn't happen with college football. I was worried about that. And by looking at this, like just by looking at these rankings, all these four Big Ten teams in the top, Kyle, I can't even hardly say it. It makes me so angry. 4 Big Ten teams in the top 5 or 6. Give me a break. That's the biggest joke in the history of college football.
Joe.
And that's all I got to say about that topic. Yeah.
I think, kind of jumping to this Alabama versus Tennessee debate in the back end of the season, this made up, fairy world scenario. Another reason I bring that up is because I think from and you mentioned this, the committee, like, what are they doing? They're rewarding teams for playing a light schedule. And that's why I think they're valuing overall records as opposed to strength of schedule. For example, Indiana's being rewarded. Penn State's being rewarded. These teams have not played the caliber that the teams from the SEC have played. That's why I think if it goes to Tennessee and Alabama on the back end, they look to who won more games, right? It would be a tie. And then did these two teams play each other, which they did. And I think that'd be it. And now a couple of people inside the comment box have said you can't go from, number 1, number 2 in the SEC to back of the line. I think you can because Tennessee has that win over Alabama, which I think is significant in terms of the head-to-head. So I don't know. You just have to continue to win on out. You can't worry about it. And who knows, Alabama versus Texas or Alabama versus Texas A&M, I think that is the matchup that we're going to see. What else you got? Hey, Mike, any takeaways from these quarterbacks that you had a chance to see against Mercer?
The quarterback, it looked like Austin Mack looked pretty good. I mean, I'm glad everybody got a chance to play. I think even some people came out of the stands and got some time to play. But they all look good, Kyle. But I'm excited about this true freshman we got coming in. I mean, this new recruit coming in from Texas, from Duncanville, where he's going to fit. And, these flips and departures we've been talking about, they're just part of the new norm. They're part of the new norm. Yes, it hurts losing a top 20 Julio Jones-style wide receiver. Yes, that one hurt. And by the way, on that topic, Kyle, real quick while I have you, I really feel this, okay? I hope Bama Nation's listen. I really feel this. If Caleb Downs would not have transferred to Ohio State, we would have beat Kentucky. I'm sorry, Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
If Caleb Downs would not have transferred to Ohio State, we would have beat Vanderbilt. I really, really feel that. We was missing that one quarterback spy, that one spot on the field. So they can cost you big time. It cost us maybe the game, in my opinion, but it's part of the new norm. It's part of the new norm. And when they happen, up top, that wide receiver, yeah, he was great. I would like to have him with our new quarterback. But it's just until they sign, I'm not going to be locked in too much until they sign because this is just a new norm that we have in college football. And real quick, Kyle, before I let you go, buddy, before you let me go, I should say, the Oklahoma game coming up this weekend, I know we're favored by 2 touchdowns, and I know they're like 6-5 or whatever, but I really think this is the biggest trap game of the year. And if we don't go into Oklahoma ready to play, focused, we better be ready to play. But I know we're 2.2 big time. I know where we're at. But this is a major trap game. It's going to show us a lot about our coaching, a lot about our focus. And you nailed it 1 second ago, just like you said, Kyle. You just got to win. If you just win, the committee's got no choice.
Yep.
But we'll see how it plays out. We'll see what they do. But so far, I have zero confidence in this committee. Zero. But we'll see how it plays out in the long run, Kyle.
I appreciate the call, Mike. Thanks for joining, man. Take it easy. All right,
buddy. Take care. Bye-bye.
Mike from Austin joining us. We got a 404 and a 515 coming up next right here on Bama Football on YouTube. At 11:30, we'll go to the press conferences. Nick Sheridan, Kane Womack, and Coach Kalen DeBoer will be at the podium at 12 p.m. So that's what to watch. Of course, news as it happens. Kaysen here saying the line is at 14. Yeah, I think Jarvis had that earlier. I appreciate you guys thinking about becoming a fan funder. So I'll put the link in the description box. So it's only $2.99. I'm trying to boost those up. So I'd appreciate that if you guys think about that. It supports the content. It supports literally me. That's how I make a living. I appreciate you guys thinking about that. We go back to the phone lines. 404. Let's do it. Hey, thank you so much for calling. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
This is Randy from Atlanta.
Did you say Randy?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Randy, welcome on to the show. I really appreciate you calling in. Randy from Atlanta, take it away.
Just wanted to try to get the conversation started about our tight ends. We got some tremendous tight ends, and they're great blockers, but they're also good receivers. And right now, I feel like we've got a three-headed monster. You know, we've got Jalen, and then we got our two running backs, and we got Ryan Williams and Prentice and a whole bunch of good receivers. But I think we're missing something here. Look at how Georgia completed, 11 passes against Tennessee to their tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
We did 4 against Mercer, but that was against Mercer. And I think we averaged about 25 yards per reception. Mm-hmm. And I'm just hoping that we can start implementing these guys. I was watching it. I was down in Baton Rouge, and mm-hmm. I was watching C.J. Dupree and Oos and these guys, and they're huge. They're animals. And C.J. caught one pass, and then he ran over a bunch of defensive backs. And I was thinking about how that would soften them up, kind of like belly blows in that fight I watched the other night. But anyway, why aren't we using our tight ends more as receivers?
You know, I'm with Randy from Atlanta talking about the tight ends. You know, over the last couple of years, I don't think that Alabama has really had a game-breaking type tight end. Now, I think when you look to this collection of tight ends that Alabama has, I think C.J. Dupree, a little bit underutilized compared to how he was used last year, in my opinion. There's been times where Jalen does go to him. I think Josh Cuevas is another guy who has big playability. You look at the touchdown against Wisconsin. You look to that nice catch he had against Mercer. Other guys in the room that stand out to me, Robbie Oots, used as an H-back, saw him downfield catch a touchdown pass. You know, I think that this offense, and it's funny that you asked this, Randy, because I just asked our Facebook community, Bama Football on YouTube on Facebook. I asked them, what is the identity of the offense after 10 games this season? I honestly, look, you can get mad, you can say whatever you want. I think it's honestly Jalen Milroe, whatever he wants to do, whether that's run, whether that's pass. And, you know, if the offensive line can hold up when he's passing, if the offensive line can block when he's running, that's it. I was surprised to even see Alabama's offense running quarterback design runs with Jalen against Mercer. Those are two things, like, out of all things that I disagree about is running design runs with Jalen against Mercer and having Ryan Williams return punts against Mercer. I want Ryan Williams to return punts in the SEC championship game. I want him to return punts in the playoffs, in the title game, whatever. But I think the offensive identity is Milroe. And in terms of the tight end usage, I would love to see it. I think on one point you might not have the overall dynamic tight ends to do that. But I don't know. That's a good topic. What else you got, Randy?
Well, just along those lines, you know, it's not only about getting these recruits to come in; it's about keeping the players you have.
Yeah.
And if we don't feed some of these tight ends because they're that good, I think C.J. Dupree. How do you know how good they are? They catch everything thrown at them. We've got to get them the ball more, and just think of what a headache that's going to cause the defenses that haven't been thinking about it. We start feeding these guys, and then it just opens everything else up. but we got to get them the ball.
I love what you just brought up about keeping players. That's probably more important than the transfer portal or going or recruiting, is like keeping the guys that you have. Think about this, Randy. Alabama, outside of C.J. Dupree and I think Robbie Oots, I would imagine Tyler Booker goes to the NFL, Jalen Milroe goes to the NFL. Everyone else probably return back or could return back, right? So you have to re-recruit the roster. That's why I felt it was so important that Coach Kalen DeBoer let Ty Simpson run the offense and kind of showcase what the offense is going to look like next year, because I think it's going to be completely different, right? You're not going to have the dynamic player like Jalen Milroe as the guy that can do everything. Rather, you're going to have a guy that, you know, can utilize your running backs, your receivers, this and that. Not that I'm saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying I think you have to re-recruit the guys and give them a kind of a taste of what's to come back. I love that point because I think now in this transfer portal, if you don't showcase how they're going to be utilized or don't give them an idea, I think that other teams are sliding into their messages, their DMs, and being like, hey, this is how we can use you in our offense. This is how you can play over here as opposed to Alabama. For example, like the running backs, I'd be like, look, the running in our offense at Tennessee, think about this, Randy, before I let you go. Look how Tennessee uses their running back, Dylan Sampson. You imagine if, like, there's other offenses that utilize their running backs. So if I'm a running back out there, I'm like, okay, I can get 25 carries over here where I can get 5 over here at Bama. I don't know. It's just something to think about. I appreciate the call, Randy. Please call again in good dialogue.
Roll Tide.
All right, roll Tide to you. Good call from Randy. We got a 515. Again, at 11:30, you have Nick Sheridan, Kane Womack, and then at 12, you have Coach Kellen DeBoer. I think, look, this could be a really hot take. I don't know, because Dylan Sampson is pretty damn good for Tennessee. I mean, is Jam Miller or Richard Young or even Justice Haynes, how do those running backs compare to Dylan Sampson? My hot take was going to be Richard Young's better than Dylan Sampson, and I kind of slowed down on that. Richard Young's good. All those running backs are good. But how will we know how good they are if they're only getting, less than 8 carries? Kind of what Randy was saying. How do we know how good these players are if they're not getting the ball? Right? I mean, you give the ball to Kendrick Law 12 times, what would he do? If he gets the ball 2 times, I don't know. It's hard to see. 515. Let me try this. Is this Timothy?
Oh, it's your boy from Iowa, man. How you doing?
Is it who am I on the line with? And where are you calling from? So Iowa.
Sorry, man. I jumped the gun on you. It's Shane up in Iowa, brother. How you doing?
Shane, I used to live in Iowa. Did I tell you this already?
I know you did.
Yeah, Pella.
We talk about it every time I come on the live, bro.
I get so excited when someone from Iowa calls. Look, is Iowa having a winter, or are you guys pushed back like we are down here in Tuscaloosa?
It's pushed back. It's hit and miss. One minute they say it's going to snow, the next minute it's not. It's raining like hell right now.
I've never been to a colder place than Pella. I'm still cold thinking about it. Anyways, come on in. I appreciate it.
I don't want to get that 28 inches of snow this year. But hey, man, look, my thing is, so here's my thing, kind of to touch on what Randy was talking about. So we'll never truly know how good Richard Young is. But see, from just watching him play, watching him how he runs the ball, especially in that secondary when he went up against Missouri on the later half of that game, he's got that dog mentality. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I'm seeing something out of him that I haven't seen in running backs, in my opinion, in quite a while. And I'm not going to say he's on the level of, like, Najee Harris or any of them running backs, but he's got the potential. I mean, he just – when he gets the ball, he eats. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's got the cleats in the ground and he's going. He can push. But my biggest concern is right now, and this is what I really wanted to truly touch base with you on, I'm not a fan of going to the SEC this year. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be awesome to go in there and play, but as it stands right now, in my opinion, I feel like if the cards are being played the way they are and the games go out like they're going to go, it's going to be Texas and Alabama in the SEC. Mm-hmm. I might be wrong. I'm just throwing out an early prediction, but that's one more game we got to play. And with Oklahoma coming up and everything else, like that could be the biggest trap game that we've had in quite a while.
Hell yeah.
Because right now Oklahoma ain't got nothing to lose. I mean, we got it all. I mean, we know what a true Alabama team can do when their back's against the wall. and they're close to elimination. Like, I would hate to be that team that has to play Alabama at home, but we're talking a neutral site.
Yep.
We're talking the guys are coming off of 2 great wins, a shutout with Missouri,
Yep.
Basically a blowout of LSU at home, and then coming off this 52-7 win with Mercer, which I didn't get to watch because I had to go to a wedding Saturday. That was fun, but I feel like I wanted to get your take on it, because really I don't think it's a game that we really need to go to. I would be better off and happier landing in a spot without having to play the SEC this year.
Yeah,
what's your thoughts on it?
At first, I was kind of providing, info on my show that, it makes sense not to go to the SEC and to host a playoff game. But now, based on like the actual statistics of Alabama making the championship game, it's very high. I don't think Missouri is going to drop these next 2 games. I know Missouri is not the same team that they were at the beginning of the season. I think Missouri wins one of these games and Alabama's in the playoffs. So that's or the SEC championship game. That's how I'm kind of framing my thought process now. So I think but the only thing like I keep pointing to is look, and Alabama may very well beat Texas or Texas A&M. I would be curious to see what a line is on that game. But I think that, I raise the question, where are they going to be penalized, if they don't win that game? I don't know. I would imagine they are, because then they would have 3 losses. But the way that you have to look at it too, if you're a coach, you have to play the best regardless, right? You have to play the best regardless on the schedule. And I think, honestly, I really do feel, this is another point to think about. I think that the committee would be smart enough to understand that the SEC and the quality overall is stronger than the other 3 big conferences. So maybe because you went to that game, you wouldn't be penalized. I don't know. I would like to hit on that Richard Young topic as well. I mean, Richard Young, that guy's a beast. Look, this could be another hot take. I don't know why I'm doing all these hot takes today. I'm not really known for that. But I think if I had to rank the running backs room right now, I'd go Jam Miller, Richard Young, Justice Haynes. I think those are the best 3 quarterbacks. So I don't know. I think those are the best 3 running backs is Jam Miller, Richard Young, Justice Haynes. I think that Richard Young could play anywhere else. The way that he's playing right now, he's one of these running backs from like 6-7 years ago. Big, imposing. He's way different than any of the other running backs we've had as of late, 100%.
Well, and most of your running backs, like, maybe I'm saying this wrong, maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Like, most of your running backs, they're looking for that clear lane, that break to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Young, in my opinion, is one of them running backs that if he's got to, he will make his own lane. Like, he will run through you if he has to. And that is that dog mentality that I have not seen out of a running back at Alabama in quite a while. I'm not saying that we got bad running backs. We got great running backs. But that is on a whole nother level. But here's my last thing, and I know it's going to be off topic from Alabama, and this is just I wanted to get your input on. I don't have faith in the committee selections this year, and here's why. Kyle, you cannot tell me that Oregon is the number 1 team in the country.
Yep.
Look at that game.
Thank you.
Look at that game against Wisconsin.
I know.
We went into Wisconsin, the second game of the season, second or third game of the season, blew them out.
Yep.
And then you go in there and you beat them by 3 to a backup quarterback?
I know.
No, there ain't no way.
I know. That I know. And when we look to contenders and pretenders, I don't even think we hit on that on the show. How I mean, the teams from the Big Ten, I think you could maybe even list 3 teams from the Big Ten as pretenders. Is that another hot take?
No, their best win is against Ohio State.
Oregon.
Ohio State by a touchdown.
And what's crazy to me, I still think Ohio State I list them in the contender category. I don't know why, but look, Oregon, that was sus, barely beating Wisconsin. Penn State, no. And Indiana, no. I mean, no. So, I don't know.
It's not. And Indiana's, in my opinion, Indiana's got to go to the horseshoe this weekend against Ohio State. And I'm not an Ohio State fan, but I don't see Indiana walking into Ohio State and getting that dub. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. We've all seen games go sideways this year.
Mm-hmm.
This has got to be the craziest year and the most exciting year of college football I've ever witnessed. But I don't see it going in Indiana's favor. And honestly, I think in my mind, I feel like Oregon is the TCU of, 3 years ago when they got in over Alabama, and everybody's like, yeah, they're the team to beat. They're the team to beat, and then Georgia plays them for the national championship, and it's a complete blowout. Like, they didn't even get a touchdown in that game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you really wanting to do that to a Big Ten team, putting them in a number one spot just to be set up for failure? I'm not saying that Oregon's this trash, no good team. They got a decent offense, but compared to, you know, an Ole Miss, an Alabama, a Tennessee, a Georgia, a Texas, do they really stand a chance on the field? Because you play like you played against Wisconsin, against Alabama or Georgia, the game's over for you. They're gonna take you out on that game. But anyway, that's my input. I just kind of wanted to get on here, talk to you. Been a hot minute. I ain't been on the live in a while, but
I appreciate
well,
you. Thank you so much for calling in, man.
Roll Tide, roll.
Roll Tide, man. Roll Tide to up in Iowa. Look, that's why I always ask people where you guys called in from, because I've been fortunate enough to live in different areas in this great country, and met some really good friends, and now I have friends from all over the world right now because of the show. It's 11:25. We got the assistant coordinators popping in at 11:30, and then Coach DeBoer up at 12. So I'm gonna take this next call. If be cognizant when it gets to 11:30. If I see that the university has gone live, I'm gonna switch over. So just kind of have that in mind. But we'll take the 704 Angel. We'll try to get to if I can, man. But 704, you're up next. Hey, thanks for calling. You're on line with Kyle Henderson.
Hey, Kyle.
Who am I on line with, and where are you calling in from?
What's up, Kyle? This is Kevin from Charlotte.
Kevin, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here, man. Go ahead.
Not much, man. Hey, yeah, sitting here listening. I've wrote down some notes. I'll be quick.
Yeah.
The thing that everybody's talking about is Alabama going to the SEC championship game and then not getting into the playoffs. Well, what if Alabama wins? I mean, what I'm seeing when I watch these games is that they're finally clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah.
They're working like a complete team.
Yeah.
Special teams, offense, and defense. They all seemingly want the same thing. They're all seemingly going for it, especially the defense.
Yeah.
And Texas really hasn't played anyone this year.
True.
Outside of Georgia.
Yeah.
So have they been challenged? And I think that we are showing our strength, and we're getting there at the right time of the year. I don't want to go in the SEC championship game just like any of us and lose and potentially not get into the playoffs. But what if we win? I mean, I think we have a better chance of winning now the way that we're playing than we do losing.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my take on it. It's a couple other things, but I know that, you only got a couple minutes here, but I've been trashing the defense all year, and now they're strong as hell.
Yep.
And
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I think with the Kevin from Charlotte, I think a couple points. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, the way that Alabama is playing right now, they're like, that's why I say, what have you done for me lately? I don't even look at the teams like Missouri or Mercer, kind of the less of competition between the two. I think the defense right now, only allowing 2 touchdowns in the last quarter, in the last 12 quarters, that stands out. The biggest thing is like the 24 forced turnovers, 14 interceptions. That stands out to me, right? The scoring offense, still almost 40 points a game. That stands out to me. They are running the football collectively more in those last 3 games. I think running the football and playing good defense, forcing turnovers is really a recipe to win as many games as possible. And I think you're right. I mean, and I'm going to go on this forever. I think if Alabama would have played Michigan the weekend after they beat Georgia in last year's SEC championship game, they would have won the national championship game. Yeah. There was that time in between there that I don't know what happened to the team, but they regressed. So if they can keep that momentum, which they clearly have right now, they're probably one of the hottest teams in college football, right? And we'll see more of that against Oklahoma. But I think, as callers has said, Oklahoma is a huge trap game. If these guys start buying into this and looking at the playoff predictions, I don't care where you go in the SEC, it's going to be difficult just because that's just the game that we play here in the SEC. Alabama, it's probably been, when's the last time Alabama, could someone, Jarvis or somebody inside the comment box, when is the last time that Alabama went to Norman, Oklahoma? Have they, I'm sure they've been there in the past, whatever, but whatever the challenge is, it's going to be a challenging environment. I don't care. I don't care if the team's 1-5. Yeah. When you play Alabama, it's the other team's Super Bowl. They're trying to salvage their season, whatever. Pride and performance, all that stuff. But good takes. And then
I agree with that.
Yeah. The last thing that I'll hit on
real quick.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, take it, man. Yep.
I was just going to say one of the things that I was, thinking about with that, being a trap game. I heard that. We also talked about that, about the Wisconsin game at the beginning of the year potentially being a trap game. I think our trap games, we lost the Vanderbilt game. However, I think that you've seen the interviews with the players and the coaches. I think this team is dialed in.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, it could be a trap game. I'm not feeling that right now. I feel like this team is dialed in. They know what they want, and they're all on the same page. I could be wrong, but that's the message that I'm hearing when you see these interviews and you see these guys talk.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks for the call, man.
Yeah, man.
All right. That was Kevin out in Charlotte. We're waiting for for UA to go live on their press conference. It should be any minute. So when it does go live, I'll bring that here right on the screen. So 251, I'll get back to you on my next call. Sorry you missed it. I know, Angel, you just dipped out as well. I appreciate you guys calling and kicking with me today on the show. So what to expect right now in the next few minutes is you have Coach Kalen DeBoer up at 12. But before that, and new this year, which I think has been good and I think has been bad, is you have the OC and the DC Bull Talk to the media, which is interesting. Sometimes these guys go really into it. It's completely different than what we've experienced in the last couple of years, or in the last, 15 years or whatever. Here they go. I'm gonna take it right
every
now.
snap that you.
It's going to be, looks like we have Nick Sheridan first. 1 second.
You got a chance to see some of your backup quarterbacks play in this game against Mercer. I'm just curious to get your thoughts on how they played.
Yeah, I thought all of them did a nice job. Certainly there was learning moments for each one of them, but as far as just execution and moving their unit, I thought those guys did a nice job. And every snap that you get is invaluable for their growth and development. I thought all three guys did a nice job.
Jump to the far left and go to Katie.
Jalen's one of the few players in SEC history to have 15 passing and rushing touchdowns in a season. Just what makes his skill set so good in both areas, and maybe how have you encouraged him to embrace both roles as a quarterback?
Well, he's uniquely talented, his ability to throw the football and obviously his speed and quickness as an athlete. And so, I think what you're trying to, encourage all the players is to continue to grow, continue to develop. Identify the things that are your strengths to build on them, and then identify things that you can improve on and try to make those your strengths. And so I think he deserves so much credit for the work that he's put in throughout his career, and becoming as good of a football player as he possibly could be. So he's had production in both areas, and the more you do well, both as a unit and as a player, the harder you are to defend. So I think that's the goal for each player and each unit, is to do a lot of things really well, so that you're tough to defend.
Go to Charlie back up right.
Yeah, hey, Coach, just when you watch Oklahoma, what kind of jumps off the page about their defense?
I think obviously the schematics are one thing, but I think, with their coaching staff and their history, just the way that they play, and, I say that in the highest of compliments. The toughness, the effort, the swarming to the football, the physicality with which they play. I just have a ton of respect for their players and their staff on how they play. Certainly there's the schematic challenges that you deal with each and every week, and this week will certainly be a challenge from that standpoint, but more than anything, just the way that they play football. I have a tremendous amount of respect for their staff and for their players for how they do that.
Go to the back of the room to Ryan.
Coach, touching on that, just to be in a road environment Saturday night with the season, every game so important, how do you go back to maybe an LSU game and use that for Saturday?
I think you lean on your experiences in some of those environments. No two situations are the same, but certainly relative to, things that you have to deal with on the road. I think each time that you're able to do that, you learn, you grow, to just help you handle those situations a little bit better. And certainly this will be an electric environment and against a really quality opponent.
Do you have any other questions? Let's go to Mike Ronette here in a minute.
Just beyond Ryan and Jeremy, just what did you see out of the receivers that got into the game beyond them?
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of players, not just receivers, tight ends, running backs. There was a lot of guys that touched the football, which was great to see. And so I think you see some of the flashes with some of the young receivers that we have in our program. The Caleb Odoms, the Rico Scotts, some of those guys that have been, have played some this year certainly, but you can see some of the talent, some of the explosiveness, some of the ball skills. And there were other guys as well. There's been, there's certainly guys that have played a lot of football, but there were some young players that I thought went in there and did a nice job, and continue to grow, practice really hard. Coach Shep, coaches the heck out of those guys. And so, we're encouraged by some of the young skill players, and not just at wide receiver. I think tight ends, running backs, there's some good young players in our program. There's no doubt about it.
What's Richard Young showed you over the course of the season, just in terms of development?
I think toughness. I think a physicality. He's a decisive runner. He runs behind his pads. He's a great kid. I mean, just he's very well liked. Not just by the other running backs, but by the whole team. And so you see that. He had a really tough fourth down run. He ran through a guy, and he's done that. He's done that. Back in spring practice and training camp. And so he's just a great kid and a really tough runner, and runs, like I said, runs downhill. He's decisive. He runs behind his pads.
Let's go to Alex right down the middle.
What have you seen out of Parker Brailsford this season, and what kind of attributes makes him effective for a guy who's a little bit undersized?
I think the thing with Parker is he has strength, and so, he might not be the biggest guy, physically, but he does play with power. He's got great body control and great balance. He's not on the ground very often. And he's got a great command of the offense, the communication. Coach Cap has done a great job. And even though there's similarities in what we've done in the past with, the offense that Parker was a part of the last few years, there's still a transition with some of the communication. I think Coach Cap and him have really just done a great job, making sure that we're on the same page, we're going to the right people. And so he's certainly a confident player in what we're asking him to do and the leadership that's required from the center position. But on top of that, his change of direction, his body and balance, body control and balance, I think is excellent. And he's a tough kid, plays hard. So, we like Parker a lot.
Just kind of sticking with the offensive line, you guys having a lot of sack in back-to-back games. Have you seen the pass pro come along as the season's progressed?
Well, there were some moments Saturday that I don't think that we were maybe as clean as we would like to be. I think I think pass protection really falls on all 11, falls on the coaching staff as well, of trying to minimize the opportunities that the opponent gets to really pin their ears back. And when you are in those moments, just being mindful of what you're asking your players to do. And so it takes all 11. It starts obviously up front, the identification, the technique, the fundamentals, but then the quarterback making sure that he's reading the play properly and getting the ball out on time, the running backs in their pass protection or their routes, and the skill guys of getting open at the right time in the right spots. And so when you're able to do that, then the quarterback's able to get rid of the football. Guys are open. So it takes everybody. Running the ball more effectively and efficiently certainly helps that as well. But that's certainly a key for us, and the team that we're going against this weekend has done a great job of creating pressure on the quarterback and sacking the quarterback. And so, that's pretty common in our league. There's no doubt with the fronts that you go against. And so making sure we stay out of some of those situations will be important.
All right, we'll finish up with Jack here in the front row.
You mentioned Caleb Odom as one of the young players who's kind of stood out, obviously almost connected on a deep play early against Mercer. How did you see him respond to that, and just how have you seen him kind of just grow overall in that receiver room?
Yeah, he's a great kid. I think he's a really conscientious, hardworking player. He has talent. There's no doubt about it. And so I think anytime, those moments present themselves, you learn from them, and and so that's what I expect him to do. I know that was, his approach yesterday. He's just a really conscientious, hardworking kid, that has great football in front of him, and his attitude has been good. He continues to work hard, practices well, cares a lot about improving as a player. And so, like I said, I think he's got a lot of great football ahead of him.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, thanks. Roll Tide.
think every state in the SEC equally sucks pretty in different ways. All I want is a mouse. You can pick and choose different aspects of each state that are good. So, you know. That influence is definitely true.
All right, we'll have Coach Womack begin with his opening statement, and then we'll take questions. Keep your hands up.
All right. Y'all made quick work of Nick, apparently. Was that 6 minutes total? All right, looking back on last week against Mercer, I thought obviously it was great to get a win and one which we were able to play a number of guys, got some young players in the game, which was really good. I thought the guys were really dialed in throughout the week. They were locked in and focused. I thought early in the game, I thought there was some inconsistency. I thought we gave up too many yards in the first half, more than we had given up in some SEC games. And so that was something that we really challenged our guys in the second half to respond and become more consistent. And what was exciting about that was, even with some younger players playing in the game, we played with a lot more consistency. The end of the second half, or excuse me, the end of the first half, and then the rest of the game in the second half, I thought we played pretty consistent football. We are continuing to take the ball away from people. There's a sense of urgency from our guys to do that. There's an effort that you see play in and play out of our guys trying to take the ball away. Obviously, the takeaways themselves, the forced fumbles, the interceptions is what everybody else sees. But when you go back and you watch the film, there were numerous times where our guys are trying to take the ball off of them, and it's just a matter of time before, on any given play, you can create a takeaway. And so I think our guys have to continue to do that. I think that's become a huge piece of our identity as a football team. We're taking the ball away from people. We're turning those takeaways into touchdowns, and that has to continue. So going into to this week, this is certainly an exciting environment that we're going into play in Norman, Oklahoma. A very proud program who's entering the SEC obviously this year, and is going to fight. I think they've had some ups and downs, but I think they've fought really hard as a football team, and they've got a quarterback that to me is very talented, can make all the throws. Does some things with his feet that obviously has kept them in position to move the chains. He does a really good job in some of their zone read game and all the different quarterback option concepts that they have. Does a nice job delivering the ball, can make all the throws across the board. I think they run the ball hard out of the backfield. And then they've got some guys that are coming back in their wide receiver core that are pretty dynamic. And when they were healthy at the beginning of the year, they were doing some really special things, and you're starting to see those guys back and playing now. So it'll be a great challenge for us, again, going on the road. Certainly what we were able to do the last time on the road, I think our players have understood, what it takes to go have a sense of urgency, to go play well on the road. And so that needs to show up this Saturday night. So looking forward to the week of preparation and prepare our guys to maximize their opportunity in Norman.
Yeah, you're third in the country right now in takeaways with 24. What culture-wise did you try to instill and that you really feel has, locked in by now for these guys to really be getting takeaways?
Yeah. My dad taught me this years ago. I mean, takeaways, it's almost like muscle memory. You have to continue to preach it. You have to continue to drill it. You talk about it before we go out to a scout team period. When we start every practice, we start a takeaway circuit. And that started from spring ball to fall camp to every day we go out there on Tuesday and Wednesday in practice. We have 6 different drills that our guys go through. The emphasis of creating interceptions, punching at the ball, raking at the quarterback, a number of different areas where you can take the ball away from an offense. And what happens is all of a sudden you do those drills day in and day out, and then you go to scout team periods and you say, okay, this period right here, we're not going to work on tackling, we're going to work on punching the ball out. So I don't want to see any wrap-ups. All I want to see is you punching the ball out. And all of a sudden it becomes muscle memory on game day. So when Damani Jackson comes off the edge in a corner fire, he thinks, okay, I have a chance to be able to knock this ball out. Well, that's the exact same drill that he's been doing for 9 months now, is punching the ball in that exact moment. It's just now becoming muscle memory for him. So those are the things that are exciting, and certainly, like I said, it's becoming an identity of who we are as a team, and so that has to continue moving forward.
Let's go to Colin on the left.
Hey, Kane, I know he's been in the starting position for a couple of weeks now, but how have you seen Bray Hubbard kind of take on that leadership role at the safety position in absence of Keon?
Well, I think probably what's most impressive about Bray is that his level of preparation has not changed now that he is the starter from when he was backup for Keon Sabb. And so when the opportunity came, Bray was so locked in every single week and prepared like he was a starter, did a great job of communicating even with that second group of twos in practice every single day, and really was probably some of the glue that held some of those young DBs together, that when his opportunity came, he was ready for it. And so he's playing at a really high level because he's prepared at a really high level all season long. And so that's probably one of the things I'm most pleased and impressed with Bray. He's a natural playmaker. He's got great instincts on the ball. He does a really good job of understanding how to play with leverage, and from a run fit capability standpoint, he's doing some tremendous things there as well. So just really pleased when you see a guy get rewarded for all the work that he's put in, and when an opportunity comes, he's made the most of it.
Let's go to Emily Grace in the middle of the room there.
Coach, prior to Saturday's game, I saw you encouraging Jalen Milroe, and we often see you two exchanging some words on the sidelines. How would you describe your relationship with him?
Well, Jalen is just, obviously, he's got a gravitational pull about the way that he carries himself, right? Here's a guy that, is extremely talented, has, probably a ton of, what do you want to say, attention and fame and all those other things, but, doesn't ever walk by you in the hallway without saying hello, asking about your family, asking how you're doing. And I think a guy like that is just really impressive to me, the way he carries himself. I enjoy being around him. I enjoy talking to him all the time. I've always said, a quarterback and a punter are a defensive coordinator's two best friends. And so I like to hang out with my friends every now and then, right? So, and encourage them. So they, I think the way that he has battled through some of the adversities that we've had this season is really impressive. And that's really what that conversation was about. Here we are on the back end of the season in November, battling our asses off every single week. And I think, he's a huge reason of why we've been able to have success in this moment. And so just giving him a little encouragement. I hope the volume wasn't too loud whenever you caught that.
Let's go to Tony on the front left.
How would you assess your team's pass rush in the last couple of weeks, and then going up against Oklahoma? Does that present, how do you exploit with them being last in the nation in sacks allowed?
Yeah. Obviously, when you look at that, you always want to be mindful of disrupting the quarterback, and I think you have to do it different ways. Obviously, when you have the personnel to just, simply rush somebody off the edge every single time, right? That might be, one way. I think at times we can do that. I think our success in generating pass rush has been through creating multiple looks up front, and so we'll continue to do those things and mix some of the pressures that we're given and mix some of the looks and even some of the formational or the alignments that we show pre-snap, and then what we get in and out of, so that we can create as many one-on-one matchups as possible, and then also, try to schematically, isolate maybe a certain, guard or running back or a offensive tackle or whatever it may be. So I think we're doing a better job of that. Part of that is me being better on the back end of the season, recognizing our personnel and what we do really well. And then, just as you start to see things from week to week in terms of what we do well and what we can take advantage of based off of what we see from the offense. So that I think we're trending in the right direction, but certainly that needs to continue.
Let's go to Ryan, back of the row.
Hey, Coach, more of a broad question about you. The beginning of this season, we kind of talked about your transition from head coach to coordinator. You said you're enjoying more of the X's and O's. What has this experience been like this season? And kind of personally, a lot of pressure on being the defensive coordinator at Alabama. But what has it been for you personally?
How so? I'm just kidding with you. I think this has been it's a very different role than being a head coach, and part of me leaving a head coaching job is because I trusted the guy that was going to be in the role of the head coaching position, and Kalen, just to watch him and see the way that he has navigated this team throughout our first year. I've told you guys this before. His superpower is his consistency. In the face of adversity or success, he's the same guy over and over again. And I think that relentless consistency has been what's allowed us to kind of navigate through the highs and lows that we've seen so far this season and putting us positioned to play our best football on the back end of the season. So for me to see that in him, and then, for him to be such a supportive head coach for the way we do things offensively, defensively, special teams, has allowed me to maximize what we're doing defensively, because I feel so supported, from the head coach position. And so, he gives great thoughts. He gives great accountability. We trust each other, so we can say whatever needs to be said, and he does a tremendous job in that regard. And so I've really enjoyed the nuances and the little details in coordinating and making adjustments at halftime and figuring out how to stop people, and maybe how to, the challenge, right, is when somebody's doing something well against you, how do you still find a way to stop what they're doing and yet still be aggressive so that you can create takeaways and get off the field on third down? And quite honestly, I would say, I have gotten better and better as a season. I've probably knocked some of the rust off, as we've gone through the season. And I think that's what everybody in the building has to do. I think, you either get better or you get worse. And I think step by step as a football team, we're getting better, and that includes me as a play caller and a defensive coordinator.
All right, we've got 2 questions on the front right. We'll start with Kennington, and then we'll go to Joe.
What'd you make of Quay Rusaw's interception, and just kind of how have you seen his confidence grow over the course of the season?
Yeah, the dude's made 2 great interceptions, so far this year, and I think that he's continuing to grow as a football player. Part of what makes you a great defender, especially at that wolf position, is that you're creating production for the defense, and I think we're seeing him do more and more of that. That was a great, that interception came because a number of things happened well. They got in a third down call. They hard counted. They checked. We checked into a pressure, and then everybody up front, executed that really well. Deontay Lawson, we talk about matching the hands of the quarterback. So when the quarterback's hands went up, he matched the hands. The ball got tipped. Really, if the ball doesn't get tipped, Quay's really still in a really good position there to go. He may have picked the ball off anyway, but now when the ball gets tipped and he has to dive and work through that. So I just think he's doing a really good job of continuing to stay relentless in his process. And now that because of injury and because he's producing at a higher level, he is playing more and more consistent as we go through the season. And certainly, when you think about some of the things that have happened in that room, and we've got a couple of guys that were down, I mean, he's stepping up at the right time.
Staying in that room, how would you assess the play of Yanzi Pierre? And secondly, if I could, how do you balance with Oklahoma preparing for a quarterback like Jackson Arnold, and then with Michael Hawkins on the sidelines, 2 different skill sets there?
Yeah, first Yanzi, I think, is taking steps in the right direction. I think it's fun for me to watch the maturity of a young man. Certainly you think about year to year, but just for a younger guy, right, you can almost see weekly someone maturing and the way that they're going about their preparation to maximize their opportunities on game day. Yanzi is one guy that you could point to, and there's a number of them right now in our young defense, which we are, that are trying, to operate at a more consistent level than they were early on in the season. And I think a lot of that has to do with there's a lot of older players that are setting the example, and they're starting, those older players are producing, and our younger players are saying, this is what it's going to take, right? I don't think Janze Pierre would be in the same position had he not had Q Robinson in that room, right, as the example of what it's supposed to look like. And then from a quarterback position, that's always the case, right? You every single week, if you're doing your due diligence as a defensive staff, you go, what is this team's identity? What do they want to get done from the quarterback position, and who do they want to feature from a skill position standpoint? And then if they have another quarterback that comes in the game, what are your answers going to be? And so you're either working those things and maximizing, your opportunities if that happens, or you don't, right? And so that's something that every single week we're going to look at and try to do. I do think there's a lot of similarities in what they ask those guys to do. Skill set wise, there might be some nuances there, but for us, I don't know if it is completely different from one guy to the next in terms of what they were asking those guys to do schematically. So it'll be a challenge, though. I mean, I think this team, when you're playing a night game in your home stadium against Alabama, we're going to get every bit of their best effort, and that to me is regardless of who you're playing. I use the example of our guys. The last 3 weeks, okay, you went up against 3 top 25 teams, right, and some really good offenses, and you gave up more yards against Mercer than you did against those 3 teams. So what matters is your ability to be able to play with a sense of urgency in the moment, right, and not wait around, but to do it from the first play to the second play to the last play of the game. And I think we're learning those things as a team.
At inside linebacker, we occasionally see the sub package with Lawson and Campbell and Jefferson all on the field together, usually with Jefferson on an edge. What does it bring to the defense when those 3 are in there at the same time?
Yeah. Well, again, all those guys are older, more experienced guys. And so certainly, there's a level of experience that those guys carry together. Athletically, from a linebacker standpoint, those 3 dudes are, they can make space tackles. They can do things. They can blitz off the edge. They can blitz up the middle. They can, play zone coverage. We can ask them to play man coverage on backs and tight ends and occasionally even receivers and with help, but they can do those things, right? So their skill set allows us to do a lot of things schematically, and those guys can cover a lot of grass and space. So it's, an advantage to us to be able to have three of those guys on the field. And then I would say from the other side, Jahad Campbell and what he does from a pass rush standpoint, we put him at the defensive end position the other day. He goes in and gets the only sack that we came up with of the day, right? So those are the things that, that we've got to continue to utilize our personnel because, quite honestly, right, just like everybody in the country, right, everybody's a little more thin at the end of the season. And so you got to find creative ways to get, your personnel in position, to maximize value for your defense. And so I think getting those 3 guys on there does that. Okay, thanks, guys. Roll Tide.
by the same routine, just we'll have Coach DeBoer begin with his opening statement, and we'll go ahead and knock out some questions.
Yeah, you bet. Good morning. Just follow up from the game on Saturday. You heard from the coordinators. Just really pleased with the focus leading up to the game on Saturday through the week of preparation. I think our team really understands that that's where it's all at, and that preparation leads to the confidence. The confidence, leads to the success that you get on Saturdays, and then just added to that, just to see a lot of guys get a chance to step on the football field, many for their first time, and I really enjoy how the older guys or the experienced guys, the ones that get a lot of the playing time, really relish that moment to be able to get some new faces, and the ones that put in just as much work as they do, a chance to go out there and enjoy a moment or two, even if that's all it is. So some guys got their first snaps of college football, especially here at Alabama, and so really cool. But moving forward to Oklahoma, just chance for us to go on the road and have to prove it again that we got what it takes, and it's going to take a great week of preparation. A physical football team all around. Their defense is, I think, an extremely tough defense in all ways. Just what they do with their scheme, and then their personnel and the way they fly around, and on offense. So we'll have to get ready for their offense with a couple quarterbacks potentially, just some skilled players, and you look at the games they've played, a lot of close games going into the second half, and even the fourth quarter. And the Missouri game obviously was a crazy ending, and some plays made both ways just in the final 2 minutes. But each and every game takes on its own life, and for us, all we're focused on is the next play, and for us, the next game, and everything that goes into being our best. And that's what our recipe for success has been here over the last month.
Thanks, Coach. Go with Charlie on the right.
Yeah, Coach, Jay Nunez is obviously very familiar with your upcoming opponent. Just what did you like about him during the hiring process, and how have you seen him kind of fit in as your special teams coordinator?
Yeah, I'd never worked with Jay Nunez, but I'd been at Southern Illinois, and then soon after he came in there, and you stay in touch with coaches that you worked with. And then I went to Eastern Michigan, and then after I left there, he went to Eastern as well. And so the name kept, following kind of where I was at, not necessarily, obviously in my position, but just, seemed to be on, a guy that really the staff related to well, heard nothing but great things. And then when it came to production and just the variety of things that he did, mostly with special teams, but also coaching positions, just a really, really great football coach. And I think what he does for us in bringing things together for our team, it's he touches pretty much every player, coaching the schematics or coaching the special teams, and every player's in those meetings at some point throughout the week. And so he does a good job just relating to them. He keeps them excited about special teams and understand the significance, not just to our team now, but the value it can bring them as they continue their careers well beyond their days playing here at Alabama. So he's done a great job. But I had identified him over the years as a guy that's done the right things and gone through the ladder of coaching at different levels, and so just really pleased with what he's doing for us right now with special teams.
Jump over to the far left to Chase.
I want to ask you about the two locals in the freshman class from Tuscaloosa, William Sanders and Kevin Riley. I think they both played a little bit against Mercer at the end. How have they developed this season? How do they look for the future?
Yeah, I really like what their future looks like here. And with William, the thing I've really noticed is, you don't get a chance to see him on the field much on Saturdays, right? Or at all. Hardly got, I think, a snap in on Saturday. And the cool thing, he was just as happy to let other guys go out there who will probably not get many chances in the rest of their career to go out there in the football field. And took advantage of his opportunity. But he works so hard, and he is becoming extremely strong in the weight room, and that's only going to translate to him being really comfortable when his time comes here, in I mean, he's got to be ready anytime, but in the days and, the next spring and moving forward. But he's got a great attitude, great personality about him. I think he really enjoys being here. With Kevin, explosive guy, I think he's learning a lot from the upperclassmen, Justice and Jam, just as far as what it takes to come in every day and have that workman-like mentality. So Coach G's coached him up, gets out there, and you feel very comfortable with him that he's going to know what his job responsibility is and that he can go make the play. So really like what those two guys are doing right now in our program as they develop.
Go to Emily Grace in the middle of the room.
Coach, you mentioned how cool it was to give some of those walk-ons their moments on the field. From your perspective, what was that like? And can you go into a little more detail about the conversations following and their significance to this program?
Yeah, their significance, there's not a lot of glitz and glamour to what they do, but it was brought forward to me here just a little bit ago, Booker making comments. Of course, I heard the comments he's made in the weight room or in the locker room after the game, but just comments that different players have made publicly, just getting brought to my attention before I came and spoke with you. And that's what makes me proud, is that our guys that are playing on Saturdays and that they're getting, and they understand how much work is being put in by these by the walk-ons, by the underclassmen, and our team was so excited when those guys were getting a chance to get out there and make a play, and I think those are special times, and it just continues to bring your team closer and closer together.
Let's go to the front right here.
Yeah, when you hired Kane and decided to bring him in, did you foresee this success in terms of getting turnovers or takeaways, I should say? One of the best in the country right now. Like, did you figure that could happen, or how did you feel about that?
Yeah, I did. He did that at Indiana, and I think with the nature of some of the things that he really liked to do, and I think this year for Kane, it's been a combination of trying to incorporate what you've done in the past, but also adjusting to your personnel and maybe where your strengths are with our defense right now. And I think that's always going to be the case. You evolve as a coach based on where you're at and what that program has with its personnel that are in place and what you bring in as you recruit. But he did that at Indiana, and I remember that. And not just when I was there, but following. And he adapts. He can adjust, and he does that in the course of a game. He's done that in the course of our season. He and the staff, I think, have really done a good job gelling, working together. They tap into each other's strengths. They have, football coaches all have a different take on things at times, and I think he's done a great job at gelling. And you can see the development of our defense happening, and I think that's a huge tribute to his leadership.
Let's go to front left, Katie.
Jalen's now one of the few players in SEC history with 15 rushing and passing touchdowns in the same season. Just since you got here and started working with him, how have you been able to encourage him to embrace both the passing and rushing part of his game to be the best complete quarterback?
Yeah, I think it just starts with doing what's best for the team. And that's what Jalen's all about, and that's really what I think triggers him, to want to win, and here's how we got to win. And, there's going to be times when you got to throw the ball, and there's times when you got to run it. And, just reps over and over and over again. He's, I think, back in a really good spot, with trust in the guys around him. There's been a little more continuity with the, practice and skill players, offensive line. There's just been more of that, and he's become more comfortable and understand what, our team needs from him to be able to win SEC football games.
Let's go to Colin, staying on the front left.
It's been a while. I'm curious if you have an update on Keon Sabb and kind of along with an injury update, just how it's kind of affected him, the role he's kind of played in the defense.
Yeah, he had his surgery and is away from us for a few days there, but he's just a guy that really has grown relationships with the team, and we want him around here. He's one of those guys, just like the others that are done for the year too, that care so much about this team, and we care about him. And so, as far as a timeline, I can't give that to you right now. I'm not I know it will be obviously through this season, but we expect him back and ready to roll, for next year, of course. But, that's just something that, I see him and, I love what his commitment level's been to our program, and we want to support him as he goes through these times, because these injuries are hard for guys, because this is not their only identity, but this is a big part of what they do. It's playing football right now.
Keeping it on the front left, Tony.
What have you seen from, or the growth that you've been able to have from your team on the road, and then how do you tap into that kind of heading into another loud environment in Oklahoma?
You just talking about the team in general?
Yeah, just handling the road environments. You improved against LSU, and how do you tap back into that?
Yeah, you learn from your experiences and understand, what it takes and the preparation, and a lot of it's the offensive side of the ball, making sure just with the noise that your process is good and your procedures are good with just getting calls made and all that kind of stuff. So it was only a week ago or so that we were in that environment, and we'll be preparing again to get ready for what's going to be a great atmosphere there in Oklahoma.
We'll go to the back middle there to Jamie.
Hey, Coach, at this point in the season, with all the projections and all the predictions about making the SEC championship game, the college football playoff, do you have to continue to preach to your team to ignore all the outside noise? Is that pretty much an unspoken thing?
Yeah, we don't really talk about the outside. We just focus on what we're doing right now, because we know that if we don't take care of our business, the rest of it doesn't matter. So, and that, I guess, it seems simple. I hope it's simple for our guys, even though I understand the distractions and the noise is out there everywhere. And I think we've really honed in, and the guys really believe on, and have understood the significance of just really focusing on where we're at now. We talk about the next play is the most important play, the next game's the most important game. We haven't thought anything beyond, Oklahoma. And I even go back to this last week. I think our guys did a great job of just focusing on Mercer. I really do. I think they really honed in on trying to make themselves the best they can be, continue to get better, and that will put us in a position to where then now playing Oklahoma, we give ourselves a better chance to win. So we're really, I think, locked in on the right things right now.
We're going to finish up with 2 questions in the back. We'll go to Jonathan.
Yeah, Coach, big picture in a season, November is huge, right? When you look at finishing the season strong and moving ahead, your programs have had a lot of success in November. What do you think that starts and comes from, and how do you kind of continue that here this season?
Yeah, just preaching the things that I kind of has discussed here, just about always improving. I think there's a off-season element to it where, you're putting in the work to be able to be strong going into the season, but then there's an in-season program to where we're continuing to get stronger as a football team. You might adjust the schedule a little bit here and there just to stay fresh. We're building more and more banked reps as we play each game, and so it's 5 minutes maybe is all that you take off of practice, but our guys are working extremely hard in the weight room. Our numbers will show that we're getting stronger there. And then I think the other part just goes again to what I said earlier. There's we call a relentless pursuit of continuous improvement. And as you improve, it leads to the rewards that you get in November. And these are the big games. These are the ones that are fun to be a part of, and the ones that you remember well down the road, as long as they go the right way.
We'll finish up with Ryan in the back.
Hey, Coach. Kane just talked about how he enjoyed the consistency from you every day, no matter if it's a big win or a big loss working with you. Where did you get that? Was that always the thing that you had, or is that something you got from a coach down the road? And how big is that when you have a big win or a big loss to stay consistent?
Yeah, I don't know if I picked it up anywhere. I think it's just I've never been this over emotional, type of, even when you just go back to your playing days. It was just, to me, it was just about being consistent. You make a play as a player, you just move on to the next one. Things don't go your way, you move on to the next one. And so just being consistent day to day. I think as a leader, that's what the people around you need, is someone that they can count on and know what to expect when they show up to work the next day or show up to practice. You know, when things aren't perfect in a game, you know, that consistency in a game that, you know, a player's not going to be nervous about coming to you. Yeah, it doesn't mean you don't get frustrated, upset, you know. I think the biggest thing is just, you know, people are going to make mistakes, you know, just correct it, you know, don't do it again. And we'll be just fine, and we're all human. And I think if I can live it and show consistency that way, that will hopefully trickle down to your staff and to your, you know, to your team. And so, you know, just there's many different ways to lead in a great way. I really feel that way, and you know, that's just probably the one that fits who I am as a person.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Yep, thank you. Roll Tide.
Fam, Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys being here. That was Coach Kalen DeBoer. I like the ending of that press conference. I think one of the things, and I got to go here in a second, but one of the things about Coach Kalen DeBoer, and I think we can all agree on this, is the consistency and kind of the demeanor that he has. I think sometimes it might be frustrating to not see him get overly excited or overly upset, but to have this type of demeanor during this entire season is impressive and something that you need, because you know, losing two games in the season and still having a shot to make the SEC title game, we knew that this wasn't going to be the same type of college football season. So you know, certainly the coach for the job. Other things that stood out to me from the 3 press conferences that we just watched, Nick Sheridan talking about Richard Young. Again, we talked about him and the success that he's had. Coach Kane Womack talked about Bray Hubbard and, you know, kind of what he was, that he's always been primed for the position to take over for Keon Sabb, who, by the way, was mentioned by Coach Kalen DeBoer as being out for the season. So Keon Sabb out for the season. Coach Kalen DeBoer also talked about blocking out that outside noise in a time where we talk about the playoffs, and all we talk is about down the road. You lose against Oklahoma, it's done. You lose against Auburn, it's done, right? So blocking out the noise, certainly important. I appreciate you guys being here. Whether you called in, if you're a fan funder, if you guys super chatted, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for being with me. I got work to do. I got to upload the press conferences and stuff like that. But I appreciate you guys being here. As news happens, I got you posted right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I hope you have an amazing Monday, and I'll see you online. Be sure and follow us on Facebook. Look for us, Bama Football on YouTube. Just type the same thing that you type to get here, Bama Football YouTube on Facebook. Hope to see you guys there, and hope you have an amazing day. Catch up with you soon. Kyle Anderson, Bama.